Okay, I'm live on both places. Corey Spence, Booker Tove. Good morning, top of the day. That's Wabu, that's Wabu. All right, beautiful people. Okay, let's do this first. Okay, Tiffany, hey girl, hey. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. Trina, hey girl, hey. That's Wabu, that's Wabu. Okay, listen here. I'm gonna pick up what we left off yesterday. Top of the day, top of the day. All right, beautiful people. So let's go ahead and get started here. Look, when you get a chance, or if you're on Facebook, since some of y'all may not be on my Facebook page, I'll post the two links in the description box today. A couple links that I posted from YouTube. Peace and blessings, Aliyah. Peace and blessings. Let me tell y'all something. When I was working out this morning, I was on the treadmill. I was watching a couple of these videos. I was cracking up, especially the one by the Ark, right? He had me rolling with that popcorn. So if y'all hadn't had a chance to go watch that, you have to go watch it, right? And you'll see what I'm saying. It's about all the stuff that's going down and how if you actually read your Bible, if you actually read it, you will realize that it is truly a living book. And what we've been telling y'all that's going to start happening at the end of our captivity. Some people have a wrong understanding of what the 400-year captivity meant, right? They thought, boom, right at the end, delivered. But and it's a great thing that we're in Exodus. Like whatever it seemed like since we've been reading, every section that we get on seems to be happening outside in the world. Like you can't make this stuff up. Like I didn't time that, right? And so we just happen now to be in the book of Exodus where we see all this stuff happening. So we know at the end of the captivity what begins to happen. The deliverer arises and the process of actually breaking us free begins, right? So it I understand that it was at the very least, 2 years from the time Moses came back to the time they were delivered. Actually, I think it was a little longer than 2 years, honestly, because if you add in the plagues, because the first time he went to go talk to Pharaoh, the first time he talked to him, to the second time he talked to him, to tell him again, Yahuwah said, let my people go, there was a 2 year span between the first time and the second time he went before Pharaoh. And you can actually find that in the book of Jasher because it gives a lot more detail on that. But anyway, so watch them 2 videos and I'll post them. So I'm not gonna harp on that too much. Just watch them. But the second one, with the Ark, he had me cracking up, shaking that popcorn bag and stuff. I'm like, clearly, that's exactly what's happening. So you who's people just need to sit back and watch him work, like seriously. And we're gonna see some crazy things beginning to happen out here in the world, right? So y'all just make sure y'all get in the Ark. Y'all get under the canopy of Yahuwah's protection and blessing and chill out while he working what he working out here to completely free his people, right? All right, so all right, y'all. Happy Friday. It is January the 8th, 2021, day 45 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 714. Today, we are reading Exodus 7, 8, and 9, and the plagues begin today. So let's go ahead over here and do the Shema first. I ain't forget, y'all. I ain't forget. I've been remembering the last couple days, but I'm grateful that y'all pop it up, say Shema just in case, because sometimes I'll start talking and then I hop right into the reading without thinking. And even though I put reminders up here, it's just blended in with everything else because it's just been there for a few days and it like blends into the background. So sometimes I don't see it. So I really appreciate you guys that actually drop it in the comment section and say Shema to keep me on track. I appreciate that. Hold on to. All right, so the Shema, remember, is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, he is one God, and you shall love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, which is action, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, your thoughts. Remember, thoughts drive action, y'all. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. Command your household in the ways of Yah. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our God, as he has commanded us. All right. So let's Shalom, shalom, Mom. Okay, y'all. So let me pull this up. All right, here. Open up Bible Gateway. Okay. Okay, let's move this over here so I can do this. Okay, y'all. I just gotta move my screen around a little bit. What? Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. It's acting squirrely. No. Why can't I minimize my screen? Hold on. I'm trying to keep YouTube up while I'm reading this. This is plucking my nerves already this morning. Okay, hold on. Let me try something else. Let me just close this and open it back up. Sorry, y'all. I'm going to get this together. Remember, if y'all got any questions, type them down in the chat box or whatever. And when we're done, we'll take a gander at them real quick before we get out of here. Okay, that worked. What's going on here today with this? Okay, this. All right, I guess I'm gonna just have to read it like this. Okay. This is weird. Okay. What in the world? I don't understand. I'm sorry, y'all. They must have did some updates to this. I cannot. Okay. Forget it. I'll figure it out later today. Okay. Let's start reading, y'all. I'm sorry. Let's see if I can move this one over. Okay, so I can do this one. Okay. All right, that works a little better. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. Exodus chapter 7. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, pay close attention to this. I will make you seem like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet. Tell Aaron everything I command you, and Aaron must command Pharaoh to let the people of Israel leave his country. But I will make Pharaoh's heart stubborn so that I can multiply miraculous signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. So remember that, y'all. Remember, when their heart gets hardened, it's the working of Yah. He's doing it so he can perform great miracles on our behalf so that we can see and we can be reminded just why he is called the mighty one of Israel. And so that the other nations can see too. It gives them an opportunity to repent and come up under his canopy of love and his protection. You know what? Moses' God is God. I'm out, bro. I'm heading over there with them. Like, seriously, right? So pay attention to everything, to the reading and what's actually going on in real time in the world. I'm just telling you, it's so exciting to me. It really is. Even then, Pharaoh will refuse to listen to you. So I will bring down my fist on Egypt. Then I will rescue my forces. Remember, Yahuwah's people is an army. They refer to us as an army. Yahuwah also referred to us as an army, his forces. Then will I rescue my forces, my people, the Israelites, from the land of Egypt with great acts of judgment. When I raise my powerful hand to bring out the Israelites, the Egyptians will know that I am God. So Moses and Aaron did just as Yahuwah had commanded them. Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron was 83 when they made their demands to Pharaoh. Then Yahuwah said to Moses and Aaron, Pharaoh will demand, show me a miracle. When he does this, say to Aaron, take your staff and throw it down in front of Pharaoh, and it will become a serpent. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did what Yahuwah had commanded them. Aaron threw his staff down before Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh called his own wise men and sorcerers, and these Egyptian magicians did the same thing with their magic. They threw down their staffs, which also became serpents. But then Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. But Pharaoh's heart, however, remained hard. He still refused to listen, just as Yahuwah had predicted. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is stubborn, and he still refuses to let the people go. So go to Pharaoh in the morning as he goes down to the river. Stand on the bank of the Nile and meet him there. Be sure to take along the staff that turned into a snake. Then announce to him, Yahuwah, the God of the Hebrews, has sent me to tell you, let my people go so they can worship me in the wilderness. Until now, you have refused to listen to him. So this is what Yahuwah says. I will show you that I am God. Look, I will strike the water of the Nile with this staff in my hand, and the river will turn to blood. The fish in it will die, and the river will stink. The Egyptians will not be able to drink any water from the Nile. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, tell Aaron, take your staff and raise your hand over the waters of Egypt, all its rivers, canals, ponds, and all the reservoirs. Turn all the water to blood. Everywhere in Egypt, the water will turn to blood, even the water stored in the wooden bowls and stone pots. So Moses and Aaron did just as Yahuwah commanded them. As Pharaoh and all his officials watched, Aaron raised his staff and struck the water of the Nile. Suddenly, the whole river turned to blood. The fish in the river died, and the waters became so foul that the Egyptians couldn't drink it. There was blood everywhere throughout the land of Egypt. But again, the magicians of Egypt used their magic, and they too turned water into blood. So Pharaoh's heart remained hard. He refused to listen to Moses and Aaron, just as Yahuwah had predicted. Pharaoh returned to his palace and put the whole thing out of his mind that all of the Egyptians dug along the riverbank to find drinking water, for they couldn't drink the water from the Nile. 7 days passed from the time Yahuwah struck the Nile. Exodus chapter 8. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, go back to Pharaoh and announce to him, this is what Yahuwah says. Let my people go so they can worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will send a plague of frogs across your entire land. The Nile River will swarm with frogs. They will come up out of the river and into your palace, even into your bedroom and onto your bed. They will enter the houses of your officials and your people. They will even jump into your ovens and your kneading bowls. Frogs will jump on you, your people, and all your officials. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, tell Aaron, raise the staff in your hand over all the rivers, canals, and ponds of Egypt, and bring up frogs all over the land. So Aaron raised his hand over the waters of Egypt, and frogs came up and covered the whole land. But the magicians were able to do the same thing with their magic. They too caused frogs to come upon the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and begged, plead with Yahuwah to take away the frogs from me and my people. I will let your people go so they can offer sacrifices to Yahuwah. You set the time, Moses replied. Tell me when you want me to pray for you, your officials, and your people. Then you and your houses will be rid of the frogs. They will only remain in the Nile River. Do it tomorrow, Pharaoh said. I'm like, bruh, y'all being tormented today. Why tomorrow? But all right, Moses replied, it will be as you have said. Then you will know that there is no one like Yahuwah, our God. The frogs will leave you and your houses, your officials and your people. They will remain only in the Nile River. So Moses and Aaron left Pharaoh's place, and Moses cried out to Yahuwah about the frogs he had inflicted upon Pharaoh. And Yahuwah did just what Moses had predicted. The frogs in the houses, the courtyards, and the fields all died. The Egyptians piled them into great heaps, and such a terrible stench filled the land. But when Pharaoh saw that relief had come, he became stubborn. He refused to listen to Moses and Aaron, just as Yahuwah had predicted. So Yahuwah said to Moses, tell Aaron, raise your staff and strike the ground. The dust will turn into swarms of gnats throughout the land of Egypt. So Moses and Aaron did just as Yahuwah had commanded them. When Aaron raised his hand and struck the ground with his staff, gnats infested the entire land, covering the Egyptians and their animals. All the dust in the land of Egypt turned into gnats. Pharaoh's magicians tried to do the same thing with their secret arts, but this time they failed. The gnats covered everyone, people and animals alike. Yuck. Now, y'all know how annoying gnats can be. If y'all got fruit that sits out a little long, especially in the summertime, you have to be very, very careful. So, as I've been learning that with my fruits, I'm very careful to keep my fruit covered in a way that gnats don't come. But it's still maybe a couple that get in, but there is a solution to get rid of gnats. I mean, not this big swarm, but in your kitchen, they're drawn to apple cider vinegar. Put it in like a small little container with just a drop of dish detergent. The gnats are drawn to the smell. They land on it and they can't get out. And all the gnats will be drawn to that. And voila, they're gone. But that ain't gonna get rid of these right here. So, but I just wanted to say that just in case. Okay. Then Yahuwah told Moses, get up in the morning and stand in Pharaoh's way as he goes down to the river. Say to him, this is what Yahuwah says. Let my people go so they can worship me. If you refuse, then I will send swarms of flies on you, your officials, your people, and all the houses. The Egyptian homes will be filled with flies, and the ground will be covered with them. But this time, I will spare the region of Goshen where my people live. And this is where the separation comes in. Remember, we talked about, I was looking like, okay, is this the separation? I was looking at COVID. I'm like, is this the separation of Yahuwah's people? No, COVID was not the separation of Yahuwah's people. It should be getting your attention. Wake up, people. Wake up. Pay attention to the time. But it's not, the COVID is not the separation, right? So we're still watching for the separation of the plagues is falling to where we won't be affected, right? It's coming. I'm telling y'all it's coming. Nikki, betwabu. And Yahuwah did just as he said. A thick swarm of flies filled Pharaoh's palace and the houses of his officials. The whole land of Egypt was thrown into chaos by the flies. Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron. All right, go ahead and offer sacrifices to your God, he said, but do it here in this land. But Moses replied, that wouldn't be right. The Egyptians detest the sacrifices that we offer to Yahuwah our God. Look, if we offer our sacrifices here where the Egyptians can see us, they will stone us. We must take a 3-day trip into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to Yahuwah our God, just as he has commanded us. All right, go ahead, Pharaoh replied. I will let you go into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to your God, but don't go too far away. Now hurry and pray for me. So remember, the Egyptians worship lambs, right? They worship lambs. But Yahuwah said, I want y'all to slaughter lambs so that they know that this lamb is not a God, right? Think about Passover. Y'all have to understand what was really happening in Egypt and what they were really doing down there and how they created gods and how they inadvertently caused Yahuwah's people to worship this same deity that the Egyptians are worshiping. They call him what? The Lamb of God. Stop it. Yahuwah said, no, I am the only God. You know, and we're going to prove this. Let's slaughter their God. Not only that, I want y'all to eat it too. Boom, boy, I'm telling y'all better pay attention. Moses replied, that wouldn't be right. The Egyptians detest the sacrifices that we offer to Yahuwah our God. Look, if we offer our sacrifices here where the Egyptians can see us, they will stone us. We must take a 3-day trip into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to Yahuwah our God, just as he has commanded us. All right, go ahead, Pharaoh replied. I will let you go into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to Yahuwah your God, but don't go too far away. Now hurry and pray for me. Moses answered, as soon as I leave you, I will pray to Yahuwah, and tomorrow the swarms of flies will disappear from you and your officials and all your people. But I'm warning you, Pharaoh, don't lie to us again and refuse to let the people go to sacrifice to Yahuwah. So Moses left Pharaoh's palace and pleaded with Yahuwah to remove all the flies. And Yahuwah did just as Moses asked and caused the swarms of flies to disappear from Pharaoh, his officials, and his people. Not a single fly remained, but Pharaoh again became stubborn and refused to let the people go. Want it, Trina? Now that'll preach, I'm telling you. Last chapter in Exodus, then we're going to hop over back in the Legends of the Jews and we're going to start filling in some borders. Exodus chapter 9. Go back to Pharaoh, Yahuwah commanded Moses. Tell him, this is what Yahuwah, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go so they can worship me. If you continue to hold them and refuse to let them go, the hand of Yahuwah will strike all your livestock, your horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, sheep, and goats with a deadly plague. But Yahuwah will again make a distinction between the livestock of the Israelites and that of the Egyptians. Not a single one of the animals in Israel will die. Yahuwah has already set the time for the plague to begin. He has declared that it will strike the land tomorrow. And Yahuwah did just as he said. The next morning, all the livestock of the Egyptians died, but the Israelites didn't lose a single animal. Pharaoh sent his officials to investigate, and they discovered that the Israelites had not lost a single animal. But even so, Pharaoh's heart remained stubborn, and he still refused to let the people go. Then Yahuwah said to Moses and Aaron, take handfuls of soot from a brick kiln and have Moses toss it in the air while Pharaoh watches. The ashes will spread like fine dust over the whole land of Egypt, causing festering boils to break out on the people and the animals throughout the land. So they took soot from a brick kiln and went and stood before Pharaoh. As Pharaoh watched, Moses threw the soot into the air, and bulls broke out on the animals and the people alike. Even the magicians were unable to stand before Moses because the bulls had broken out on them and all the Egyptians. But Yahuwah hardened Pharaoh's heart, just as he had predicted to Moses. Pharaoh refused to listen. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, get up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. Tell him, this is what Yahuwah, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go so they can worship me. If you don't, I will send more plagues on you and your officials and your people. Then you will know that there is no one like me in all the earth. By now, I could have lifted my hand and struck you and your people with the plague to wipe you off the face of the earth. But I have spared you for a purpose, to show you my power, and to spread my fame throughout the earth. But you still lord it over my people and refuse to let them go. So tomorrow at this time, I will send a hailstorm more devastating than any in all the history of Egypt. Quick, order your livestock and your servants to come in from the fields to find shelter. Any person or animal left outside will die when the hail falls. Some of Pharaoh's officials were afraid because of what Yahuwah had said. They quickly brought in their servants and their livestock from the fields, but those who paid no attention to the word of Yahuwah left theirs out in the open. Looked like some of the Egyptians like, wait, hold on, listen. You know, he came in here the last couple of times and what he said has happened. Yeah, I don't know that I want to listen to Pharaoh this time. Look, I don't know about y'all, but I'm bringing my servants singing. I'm bringing them in the house. So Moses lifted his staff toward the sky, and Yahuwah sent thunder and hail, and lightning flashed towards the earth. Yahuwah sent a tremendous hailstorm against all the land of Egypt. Never in all the history of Egypt had there been a storm like that, with such devastating hail and continuous lightning. It left all of Egypt in ruins. The hail struck down everything in the open field, people, animals, and plants alike. Even the trees were destroyed. The only place without hail was the region of Goshen, where the people of Israel lived. Then Pharaoh quickly summoned Moses and Aaron. This time I have sinned, he confessed. Yahuwah is the righteous one, and my people and I are wrong. Please beg Yahuwah to end this terrifying thunder and hail. You go. You don't need to stay any longer. All right, Moses replied. As soon as I leave the city, I will lift my hands and pray to Yahuwah. Then the thunder and the hail will stop, and you will know that the earth belongs to Yahuwah. But I know that you and your officials still do not fear Yahuwah, our God. All the flax and barley were ruined by the hail, because the barley had formed heads and the flax was budding. But the wheat and the emmer wheat were spared, because they had not yet sprouted from the ground. So we know right here they were coming up. If we know about keeping Yahuwah's feast, I think it mentioned this for a purpose, because we know we're coming up on first fruits soon. And so the first fruits and stuff will begin, they'll start preparing to come through, right? The barley harvest, and they're offered that, right? Because we know they left out, and it was the first month, and they celebrated Passover in the wilderness, right? So if you pay attention to all the small details, everything will start clicking and falling into proper place, right? All the flax and barley were ruined by the hail, because the barley had formed heads and the flax was budding. But the wheat and the emmer wheat were spared, because they had not yet sprouted from the ground. So Moses left Pharaoh's court and went out of the city. When he lifted his hands to Yahuwah, the thunder and hail stopped, and the downpour ceased. But when Pharaoh saw that the rain, hail, and thunder had stopped, he and his officials sinned again, and Pharaoh became stubborn. Because his heart was hard, Pharaoh refused to let the people leave, just as Yahuwah had predicted through Moses. Okay, y'all. So that is our reading for today in Exodus, and we'll pick them plagues back up in the morning. But let's hop on over here to Legends of the Jews, starting where we left off at yesterday on page 212. If you have the same book I have, if you have the smaller version, which means less words fit on the page, so the page numbers are different, but it's volume 2, in the section Moses rescued by Gabriel. Okay, hold on. Yeah, Moses rescued by Gabriel. Okay, y'all. When Moses was in, and remember, although we're past this point in Exodus now, we're still going to read it through, because the rest of this, like I said yesterday, it fills out Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So we're not going to skip anything. We're just going to go through. So we're going to actually get to the plagues in a couple days. I know we're going to be them been past them, and they're going to already be in the wilderness by the time we get to the plagues in here. But I think it's good that you hear all the details. You have to hear it, especially because the day we're in. You have to hear it, because it's going to build your faith, and you can watch things that are happening the same exact way. Okay. When Moses was in the third year, Pharaoh was dining one day. When Moses was in his third year, Pharaoh was dining one day, and the queen, Alphar Anit, was at his right hand, his daughter Bithia, with the infant Moses upon her lap at his left, and Balaam, the son of Beor, together with his 2 sons and all the princes of the realm, sitting at the table in the king's presence. It happened that the infant took the crown from off of the king's head and placed it on his own head. When the king and the princes saw this, they were terrified, and each one in turn expressed his astonishment. The king said unto the princes, "What speak you, and what say you, O ye princes, on this matter? And what is to be done to this Hebrew boy on the account of this act?" Balaam spoke, saying, "Remember now, O my lord and king, the dream which thou did have many days ago, and how thy servant interpreted unto thee. Now this is a child of the Hebrews, in whom is the spirit of Yahuwah. Let not my lord the king imagine in his heart that being a child, he did the thing without knowledge. For he is a Hebrew boy, and wisdom and understanding are with him." And let me tell y'all something. I'm so excited about when Yahuwah completely pours that back out on us, because that's an inheritance. Think about it. If you go through and you read some of this stuff, we were more knowledgeable. Yahuwah's people, like the spirit of Yahuwah just rested in us from the time of the womb all the way to the time they actually went into eternity. And they did supernatural things. They could see way further and could understand so many more things than a lot of the other nations. And that was a blessing that Yahuwah had set on his people. That was one of his gifts to them. And it was a constant thing, not just a little here and a little there, but on all of them, right? So that's why they're killing all the boys. Think about how let's not get into it. I'm going to read. For he is a Hebrew boy, and wisdom and understanding are with him. Although he is yet a child, and with wisdom he has done this, and chosen unto himself the kingdom of Egypt. For this is the manner of all the Hebrews, to deceive kings and their magnates, to do all things cunningly, in order to make the kings of the earth and their men to stumble. Surely knowest that Abraham, their father, acted thus, who made the armies of Nimrod, king of Babel, and of Abimelech, king of Gerar, to stumble. And he possessed himself of the land and of the children of Heth and the whole realm of Canaan. Their father Abraham went down into Egypt and said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister, in order to make Egypt and its king to stumble. His son Isaac did likewise when he went to Gerar, and he dwelt there, and his strength prevailed over the army of Abimelech, and he intended to make the kingdom of the Philistines to stumble by saying that Rebekah, his wife, was his sister. Jacob also dealt treacherously with his brother. So notice how the other nations look at us. When Yahuwah leads us to do a thing, it's because of true indeed. He said, I'm going to give you this land. But the other nations knew that. They said the Hebrews are treacherous. Everything they do is to possess everything we got. So that's why they treat us like they do. Like they don't trust us at all. And that's, we can still see that even in captivity, when all them gifts was taken away from us, they still don't trust us. They still don't trust us. And Yahuwah made it to be that way. Jacob also has dealt treacherously with his brother and took his birthright and his blessing from him. Then he went to Padan Aram to Laban, his mother's brother, and he obtained his daughter from him cunningly, and also his cattle and all his belongings, and fled away and returned to the land of Canaan, his father. His sons sold their brother Joseph, and they went down into Egypt and became a slave, and he was put in prison for 12 years until the former Pharaoh delivered him from the prison and magnified him above all the princes of Egypt on the account of his interpreting the king's dream. When Yahuwah caused a famine to descend upon the whole world, Joseph sent for his father, and he brought him down to Egypt. And he brought him down into Egypt, his father, his brethren, and all his father's household, and he supplied them with food without pay or reward, while he acquired Egypt and made slaves of all its inhabitants. Now therefore, my Lord and King, behold, this child has risen up in their stead in Egypt to do according to their deeds and make sport of every man, be he king, prince, or judge. Now, man, they talking about the baby Moses sitting on the mama lap. So Moses, y'all know, think about kids, right? Y'all say y'all sitting at dinner, somebody holding a baby on their lap, bouncing or whatever, and say somebody sitting beside them, they got something that catches the child's eye, a scarf or something. But in this situation, it just happened to be the king's crown on his head, So he reached over and grabbed the king's crown and he put it on his own head. And that scared everybody, scared the daylights out of everybody. Now they're going through this whole history lesson, making sure the king understand. Look, and they all knew he was a Hebrew. They mentioned, they said, this Hebrew boy, they all do this. They was mad. They didn't really want to keep him in there. But Bithia, she was honest. She hid him for a while, but they realized when he was a Hebrew, they started side-eyeing him to keep an eye on him. And when he did that, they said, oh no, Egypt is in trouble. Now, therefore, my Lord King, behold, this child has risen up in their stead in Egypt to do according to their deeds and make sport of every man, be he king, prince, or judge. If it please the king, let us now spill his blood upon the ground, lest he grow up and snatch the government from thine hand, and the hope of Egypt be cut off after he reigns. Let us moreover call for all the judges and all the wise men of Egypt, that we may know whether the judgment of death be due to this child, as I have said, and we will slay him. Pharaoh sent and called for all the wise men of Egypt, and they came, and the angel Gabriel was disguised as one of them. When they were asked their opinion in the matter, Gabriel spoke up and said, if it please the king, let him place an onyx stone before the child and a coal of fire. And if he stretches out his hand and grasps the onyx stone, then we shall know that the child have done with wisdom all that he have done, and we will slay him. But if he stretches out his hand and grasps the coal of fire, then we will know it was not with consciousness that he did the thing, and he shall live. The counsel seemed good in the eyes of the king, and when they had placed the stone and coal before the child, Moses stretched forth his hand towards the onyx stone and attempted to seize it, but the angel Gabriel guided his hand away from it and placed it on a live coal. The coal burnt the child's hand, and he lifted it up and touched it to his mouth and burnt part of his lips and part of his tongue. And for all his life, he became slow of speech and of a slow tongue. Let that sink in for a second. Seeing this, the king and the princes knew Moses had not acted with knowledge in taking the crown from off the king's head, and they refrained from slaying him. Yahuwah himself, who protected Moses, turned the king's mind to grace, and his foster mother snatched him away, and she had him educated with great care, so that the Hebrews depended upon him and cherished the hope that great things would be done by him. But the Egyptians were suspicious of what would follow from such an education as this. At great cost, teachers were invited to come to Egypt from neighboring lands to educate the child Moses. Some came of their own accord to instruct him in the sciences and the liberal arts. By reason of his admirable endowments of mind, he soon excelled his teachers in knowledge. Yes, that's exactly why he said he doesn't speak well. Yes, that is awesome, ain't it? Man, let me tell you. Y'all just keep listening. His learning seemed a process of mere recollecting, and when there was a difference of opinion among scholars, he selected the correct one instinctively, for his mind refused to store up anything that was false. And made it happen for all of us. May Yahuwah cleanse our mind and refuse to store anything in it that's false. May we know the truth about all things, especially today and what's going on. But he deserves more praise for his unusual strength of will than for his natural capacity, for he succeeded in transforming an originally evil disposition into a noble, exalted character, a change that was farther aided by his resolution, as he himself acknowledged later. After the wonderful exodus of the Israelites from Egypt, a king of Arabia sent an artist to Moses to paint his portrait, that he might always have the likeness of the divine man before him. The painter returned with his handiwork, and the king assembled his wise men, those in particular who were conversant with the science of physiognomy. Hold on. Physiognomy. I think I said that right, y'all. Physiognomy. I'm gonna look that up later. I'm gonna make sure I pronounce that right. I know I be screwing some of these words up, but forgive me, y'all. In particular, those who were conversant with the science of physiognomy. He displayed the portrait before them and invited their judgment upon it. The unanimous opinion was that it represented a man covetous, haughty, sensual, in short, disfigured by all possible ugly traits. The king was indignant that they should pretend to be masters in physiognomy, seeing that they declared the picture of Moses, a holy divine man, to be the picture of a villain. They defended themselves by accusing the painter in turn of not having produced a true portrait of Moses, else they would have fallen into the erroneous judgment they had expressed. But the artist insisted that his work resembled the original closely. Unable to decide what was right, the Arabian king went to see Moses, and he could not but admit that the portrait painted for him was a masterpiece. Moses, as he beheld him in the flesh, was the Moses upon the canvas. There could be no doubt but that the highly extolled knowledge of his physiognomy experts was empty twaddle. He told Moses what happened and what he thought of it. He replied, "Thy artists and thy experts alike are masters, each in his line. If my fine qualities were a product of nature, I were no better than a log of wood, which remains forever as nature produced it at first. Unashamed, I make the confession to thee that by nature I possess all the reprehensible traits Thy wise men read in my picture and ascribed to me, perhaps to a greater degree even than they think. But I mastered my evil impulses with my strong will, and the character I acquired through severe discipline has become the opposite of the disposition with which I was born. Well, I'm telling you, may Yahuwah endow me with the strength to keep putting this flesh to death. I'm telling you, it's a struggle sometimes. Like, Pam, let's go. Let's go. You got to be disciplined. You got to be more disciplined. I'm telling you, getting up at 5 a.m. sometimes it's a struggle. But I roll myself on out the bed and get moving and do what I need to do. So it's a process. But clearly, Moses' willpower was, I don't know that it's unmatched, but maybe we can get close to it. Through this change, wrought in me by my own efforts, I have earned honor and commendation upon the earth as well as in heaven. So all of our striving doesn't go unseen by Yah, right? Okay. One day, it was after he was grown up, he had passed beyond the years of childhood. Moses went to the land of Goshen, in which lived the children of Israel. There he saw the burdens under which his people were groaning and inquired why the heavy service had been put upon them. The Israelites told him all that had befallen, told him of the cruel edict Pharaoh had issued shortly before his birth, and told him of the wicked counsels given by Balaam against themselves as well as against his person when he was but a little boy and had set Pharaoh's crown upon his head. The wrath of Moses was kindled against the spiteful advisor, and he tried to think out means of rendering him harmless. But Balaam, getting wind of his ill feeling, fled from Egypt with his 2 sons, betook himself to the court of Kikos, king of Ethiopia. The sight of his enslaved people touched Moses unto tears, and he spoke, saying, Woe unto me for your anguish. Rather would I die than see you suffer so grievously. He did not disdain to help his unfortunate brethren at their heavy task as much as lay in his power. Also, something I want y'all to pay attention to. Y'all may forget it, but as we're going through this and as they're passing through places as they come out of Egypt, I want y'all to pay attention to the surrounding nations and what they were called, and try to go out and look and see where these nations are at today, right? As we go and if I remember, I try and point them out because this tells us and it places what happened. If you can understand, make sure I get my words right. It gives you kind of like the whereabouts because the names have been changed so much. If we can decipher the right name and track it back to these places, we can see exactly where all of this took place, right? And that we can also know where the land is at that is called the promised land, because there's a lot of debate about that going on right now, especially among Yahuwah's people. I heard 3 different things. Some say it's over in the land of Africa, like right where the Jewish people are at, around through there, like they draw it out on the map today. So there's a group that disagrees with that, and this group that's down further. I think. Love it. Drive safe. There's a truck coming from Estes today. Do I need to get that? It's just one skid between 10 and 2.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll call you first.
Okay.
After you get off, just call me.
Okay. And then there's another, that's the second group. And there's another group of people that believe the promised land is here, that the Americans, and I looked at all of them, and all of them have really, really good, really good arguments behind it all. But sometimes, like, Father, there has to be truth somewhere. And some people say, well, actually there's 4. And some people say it's not even over here anywhere. It's in like the places where they didn't cut everybody off from. I was like, I can't really say for sure. But as I've grown over the last 3 years, specifically over the last 3 years, I'm leaning more towards one of them. I'm not going to say because I want to put any ideas in y'all head, but something that I'm looking at as I'm reading, I'm like, wait a minute, okay, there has to be stuff in plain sight where we can pinpoint. And what we can pinpoint is if we can recognize who these nations were and where they were located, and if we can go back and decipher the names that have been changed over the years, if we can match those names up and make sure we're matching up the right people throughout the years and how their name has changed, we can pinpoint where they're located today, and we can literally figure out where the right land is, right? I feel really strongly about one particular place, not one particular, but it's a big mass of land. But you have to also remember that I realized that the people that were scattered here, of our people that were scattered here to the Americas, I think they're missing a big piece of information. Well, it seems to me that I don't know that they realize that they're missing it or that they're overlooking it. The 10 tribes that were scattered before Judah and Benjamin last, remember, they were scattered way before, many years before the last of us were scattered to the four corners of the earth. Remember, Yahuwah said we were going to be scattered and we're going to be pushed away from our land, right? So it would make sense that when we were finally pushed out and scattered, that we were also scattered to some of the places that our brethren and our cousins were scattered to. Why? Because they had already been scattered throughout the world first. And they've been there so long, and as time goes on and generations change and information is lost through translation, they believe that they've always been here. And I don't quite think that's the case. Is you've been here for so long and you intermingle with the natives of the land where you've been scattered at so long that you forgot that you were not originally natives to this land. That's what I believe at this point today in my life, based on what I'm reading and understanding and the nations surrounding us during this time. So think about that, y'all. Think about that. Think about who was around. Who are these other nations that were around us and surrounding us? And as we were passing through and around the land, right? It gives so many names of the different nations. Okay, where are these nations at today? So just remember that. I just wanted to say that for some people. Okay. The sight of his enslaved people touched Moses unto tears, and he spoke, saying, woe unto me for your anguish. Rather would I die than see you suffer so grievously. He did not disdain to help his unfortunate brethren at their heavy task as much as lay in his power. He dismissed all thought of his high station at court, shouldered a share of the burdens put upon the Israelites, and toiled in their place. The result was that he not only gave relief to the heavy laden workmen, but he also gained the favor of Pharaoh, who believed that Moses was taking part in the labor in order to promote the execution of the royal order. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, thou did relinquish all thy other occupations and did join thyself unto the children of Israel, whom thou dost treat as brethren. Therefore will I too put aside now all heavenly and earthly affairs and hold converse with thee. Let me tell y'all something. If y'all ever watched the Ten Commandments, the movie that came out around about the same time with the movie Ben-Hur, it's old black. Well, it's not necessarily black and white. It is some color, but it's old. I think it was, I want to say it was like the 80s when it came out. If you remember post the year, but that particular Moses, I forget the guy's name. The Caucasian people playing all the parts and stuff, right? They knew some of this stuff, right? Because some of the stuff, and I used to watch that every year. So I'm like, okay, how did they know that Moses actually did this? Because we don't read that in the canonized version of the Bible. Neither can you find that in the Apocrypha. So we know that they have other scrolls, because that part in that movie in the Ten Commandments where Moses left from his high place in Egypt, and he actually went down there and he made himself look like a slave and got there in the tar pits. How did they know that? How did they know that happened? And they depict, thank you, Charlton Heston. Thank you, Nikki. That was his name. How did they know to put that in the movie? It's because they had hold of the scrolls and they knew what was there. So we think a lot of times, oh, it's just kind of a little embellishment to the movie so people can enjoy it, make it a little long, make it a good, nice, long movie or whatever. No, they have the scrolls and they're adding in truth, and it throws us off because they change the nationality of the people and they change up a few things. But if you're familiar with the scrolls and ancient history, you can clearly see when they're flaunting the truth in front of our faces, and they change a few things to throw people off. They change the color of the people, so it's like, oh, it's a good movie, not realizing they're laughing at us and they're playing our story in front of our face, and we don't have the, or we didn't have the scrolls, so we're not picking up on it. Just think about it. It wasn't time because we had to finish out the time of our captivity. So now with all this truth coming to light, and we're realizing, wait a minute, you have been mocking us this entire time. But now that we know, we can call on our mighty one. Y'all put all his side, I'm sorry, y'all put aside all his work to spend time with Moses. I know, right? This just blows my mind. Okay, let me finish reading this section, y'all. Okay. Thou didst relinquish all thy other occupations and did join thyself unto the children of Israel. I missed that whole part. And Yahuwah said to Moses, thou did relinquish all thy other occupations and did join thyself unto the children of Israel, whom thou did treat as brethren. Therefore I too will put aside now all heavenly and earthly affairs and hold converse with thee. Moses continued to do all he could to alleviate the suffering of his brethren to the best of his ability. He addressed encouraging words to them, saying, my dear brethren, bear your lot with fortitude. Do not lose courage, and let not your spirit grow weary in the weariness of your body. Better times will come when tribulation shall be changed into joy. When tribulation shall be changed into joy. Clouds are followed by sunshine, storms by calm, and all things in the world tend toward their opposites, and nothing is more inconstant than the fortunes of man. The royal favor which the king accorded him in ever increasing measure, he made use to lighten the burden laid upon the children of Israel. One day he came into the presence of Pharaoh and said, O my Lord, I have a request to make of thee, and my hope is that thou wilt not deny it. Speak, replied the king. It is an admitted fact, said Moses. Oh, listen, y'all, this weekend, I'm gonna post a link here. Hopefully, it's a free version on YouTube. Y'all have to go watch the Ten Commandments because this is another part that they put in there that it is also not in the Bible, but it's in the movie. Clearly, because they had a copy of the scrolls. Remember the part in there where it says, "What is this? Now they're calling Moses the Savior. You giving them a rest day and everything, and that what's gonna happen next? You know, now you're gonna be leading people out of here." Y'all gotta go watch that. I know it's pretty long. I think it's like almost 3 hours long, but put it on. I'm telling you, or just skip to places so you can see what I'm talking about. That's coming right out of the old scrolls, right? Listen. Speak, replied the king. It is an admitted fact, said Moses, that if a slave is not afforded rest at least one day in the week, he will die of overexertion. Thy Hebrew slaves will surely perish unless thou accordest them a day of cessation from work. Pharaoh fulfilled the petition preferred by Moses, and the king's edict was published in the whole land of Egypt and in Goshen as follows: to the sons of Israel, thus saith the king, do your work and perform your service for 6 days, but on the 7th day you shall rest. On it ye shall do no labor. Thus shall ye do unto all times, according to the command of the king and the command of Moses, the son of Bithiah. Even before they left out, what happened, y'all? What happened? Yahuwah's people started returning to his law, statutes, and his commands. He even got the king of Pharaoh telling him, y'all, stop working and y'all need to rest. That's why we're putting into practice. We're going to rest on the 7th day, right? Because before they go out, Yahuwah is preparing them to come meet him in the wilderness, y'all. If y'all ain't picked that up, we are preparing to meet our mighty one. Turn back to these laws, these statutes, and commands. Okay. And the day appointed by Moses was, as the day of rest was Saturday, later given to Yahuwah by Israel as its Sabbath day. And we know, we ain't gonna get into all that, but we know it's the 7th day, right? They put in here Saturday, but it's the 7th day, right? Okay. While Moses abode in Goshen, an incident of great importance occurred. To superintend the service of the children of Israel, an officer from among them was set over every 10, and 10 such officers were under the surveillance of an Egyptian taskmaster. One of these Hebrew officers, Dathan by name, had a wife, Shilomith, the daughter of Dibri of the tribe of Dan, who was of extraordinary beauty, but inclined to be very loquacious. Whenever the Egyptian taskmaster set over her husband came to their house on business connected with his office, she would approach him pleasantly and enter into conversation with him. The beautiful Israelitish woman enkindled a mad passion in his breast, and he sought and found a cunning way of satisfying his lustful desire. One day he appeared at the break of dawn at the house of Dathan, roused him from his sleep, and ordered him to hurry his detachment of men to their work. The husband, scarcely out of sight, he executed the villainy he had planned and dishonored the woman. And the fruit of this illicit relation was the blasphemer of the name whom Moses ordered to execution on the march through the desert. At this moment, when the Egyptians slipped out of Shelomith's chamber, Dathan returned home, vexed that his crime had come to the knowledge of the injured husband. The taskmaster goaded him on to work with excessive vigor and dealt him blow after blow with the intention to kill him. Young Moses happened to visit the place at which the much abused and tortured Hebrew was at work. Dathan hastened toward him and complained of all the wrong and suffering the Egyptian had inflicted upon him. Full of wrath, Moses, whom the Holy Spirit had acquainted with the injury done the Hebrew officer by the Egyptian taskmaster, cried out to the latter, saying, "Not enough that thou hast dishonored this man's wife, thou aimest to kill him too." And turning to Yahuwah, he spoke further. "What will come of thy promise to Abraham, that his posterity shall be as numerous as the stars, if his children are given over to death? And what will become of the revelation on Sinai, if the children of Israel are exterminated?" Moses wanted to see if someone would step forward and, impelled by zeal for the cause of Yahuwah and for Yahuwah's law, would declare himself ready to avenge the outrage. He waited in vain. Then he determined to act himself. Naturally enough, he hesitated to take the life of a human being. He did not know whether the evildoer might not be brought to repentance and then lead a life of pious endeavor. He also considered that there would perhaps be some among the descendants to spring from the Egyptian for whose sake their wicked ancestor might rightfully lay claim to clemency. The Holy Spirit allayed all his doubts. He was made to see that not the slightest hope existed that good would come from either the malefactor himself or from any of his offspring, which we also hear when Yahuwah destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. He said he's looked all through time, and he said this place, this particular place, will never change, and none of their offsprings will ever change. That's why we're going to go ahead and destroy it now. Nobody is going to turn. And Yahuwah sees the end from the beginning, and he knew no one righteous would arise from this place, nor any of their offspring. Same thing here. He was made to see that not the slightest hope existed that good would come from either the malefactor himself or from any of his offspring. That Moses was willing to requite himself for his evil deeds. Nevertheless, he first consulted the angels to hear what they had to say, and they agreed that the Egyptian deserved death, and Moses acted according to their opinion. Neither physical strength nor a weapon was needed to carry out his purpose. He merely pronounced the name of God, and the Egyptian was a corpse. Y'all heard that? Y'all hear that? Like, Yahuwah has given us weapons of warfare that are more powerful than the most craziest weapons of war. He simply spoke. And that's something that was put to sleep when we went into captivity. That when we open our mouths and speak, that power that will come, that power behind it, it ceased. That's coming back. Y'all got to be careful what y'all say out y'all mouth. Listen, neither physical strength nor a weapon was needed to carry out his purpose. He merely pronounced the name of Yahuwah, and the Egyptian was a corpse. To the bystanders, the Israelites, Moses said, Yahuwah compared you unto the sand of the seashore, and as the sand moves noiselessly from place to place, so I pray you keep the knowledge of what happened a secret within yourself. Let nothing be heard concerning it. The wish expressed by Moses was not honored. The slaying of the Egyptian remained no secret, and those who betrayed it were the Israelites, Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Palau of the tribe of Reuben, notorious for their effrontery and conscientiousness. The day after the thing with the Egyptians happened, the two brothers began of malice aforethought to scuffle with each other, only in order to draw Moses into the quarrel to create an occasion for his betrayal. The plan succeeded admirably. Seeing Dathan raise his hand against Abiram to deal him a blow, Moses exclaimed, "O thou art a villain to lift up thy hand against an Israelite, even if he is no better than thou." Dathan replied, "Young man, who hath made thee to be a judge over us, that thou hast not yet attained, and thou hast not yet attained to years of maturity? We know very well that thou art the son of Jochebed, though people call thee the son of the princess Bithia. And if thou shouldest attempt to play the part of our master and judge, we will publish abroad the thing that thou did unto the Egyptian, or peradventure thou harborest the intention to slay us as thou didst slay him by pronouncing the name of Yah." Not satisfied with these taunts, the noble pair of brothers betook themselves to Pharaoh and spoke before him. Give me a second, y'all. I see it right now. My phone about to go out. I'm almost done reading. Let me. Oh shoot. Okay.